Now, the July unrest put the brakes on investments in the country. Newzroom Afrika went on a fact-finding mission whether the event continues to have an impact on investment decisions in the country. Ntokozo Khumalo has the details.
In just 9 days, the looting and violence wiped off 50 billion rand from the South African economy, and the aftermath left 150,000 people jobless. That's according to an investigation by the South African Human Rights Commission. But the cost of the July 2021 unrest continued to linger today. The Commission attributed the unrest to deep-rooted political and social challenges facing South Africa, making it easy to orchestrate unrest.
A lot of our small businesses, most of them have not been able to reopen their businesses, which then means that the employees who were employed there are permanently now unemployed. But also from a micro point of view, if you look at the economic growth, general economic growth, there hasn't been much economic growth. Last year we grew by less than 1%, which then tells you that the economy is still struggling.
Matabane adds that before the unrest, the business sector was already reeling from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, with the lack of economic activity during the lockdown having crippled businesses. Allianz, the global financial services company, agrees and warns that this added to a cost of living crisis across emerging markets, and that countries such as South Africa should prepare for a rise in civil unrest incidents in future. According to Matabane, that adds to the risk for investors.
If we don't deal with the underlying issues, we're risking things getting worse. And as things get worse, a lot of both local and international investors will really think twice, because investors by nature, they want to invest in an environment where there's certainty. You know, if you put your funds and money somewhere, you'll be able to get it when you want to get it. So hence we are saying the call that needs to happen is that we need to deal with the underlying issues.
The National Black Business Caucus argues that while work has been done to see big businesses recover from the July 2021 unrest, small businesses are often neglected, especially those in townships that desperately need funding.
There is still something there for unrest, for backing up the business of unrest who suffered through the unrest. However, none of those businesses qualify. Very few of them qualified for that service. Whereas your big ShopRites and your big companies that also suffered are all formalized businesses. So to comply is quite easy for them to get access to that funding to assist them. But for the small businesses to qualify, that qualifying criteria is for big companies and not for small companies.
He adds that for the government to address the socio-economic challenges facing South Africa, such as high unemployment, the country's economic activity must be closer to the masses.
Where's Township going to get the money from to develop itself? Even if I open a shop selling Sparkle here in Township, how many people have got the money to buy that? Because there's no jobs. So to create the jobs, bring the economy out. Instead of planning centers of economy like Sandton, like Menlyn, Cape Town, and having these areas that are always going to get all the opportunities, spread out the economic activity to all angles of this country.
He says small businesses are pinning their hopes on the 7th administration to get this right before more unrest erupts. Maplecroft, a global risk and strategic consulting firm, predicted that socio-economic tensions could boil over this year. That's as more than 50 countries take to the polls. South Africa made the list. However, the country has so far proved critics otherwise. Matabane agrees that South Africa faces numerous risks that place the country high on the list of economies that are vulnerable to unrest.
We are very, very hopeful that things will get better. And then we are happy with, for example, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, because that's where a lot of legislation that affect business are enacted and originated. We are very, very hopeful and positive that things will improve in the next 2-3 years.
For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Johannesburg.